Hello and welcome back to the Red Path. Today I'm joined by a special guest, Zach from Vox Daemonicus, and we're going to talk about board control. Zach, how you doing, mate?
Good, Jamie. How's it going, man?
Not too bad, not too bad. Thank you for coming on and having a little sit down and chat with me. And let's get our competitive juices rolling, right?
Yeah, man, let's do it. Thanks for having me on, first of all. Been a fan for a
Wow.
while, and I know you and I have been kind of talking world leaders back and forth, so
Yeah.
it's nice to do it in, kind of an official capacity.
Absolutely, yeah. Like for anyone who's not familiar, I'm going to have Zach talk about himself here in a minute, but there will be links below to his podcast platform and anything he gives me to share for him, any social medias and stuff, it'll all be below. So please make sure you check it out. But Zach, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? You know, you're 40K, what you do. Obviously, we know you're a competitive player. And tell us a little about why you started Vox Daemonicus and why people should come and listen, because I do absolutely recommend it. But you sell us on it, mate.
Yeah, sure. Well, unfortunately, I don't have an elevator pitch, so it might go a little bit long, so cut me off. No, I'll try to keep it short. So, yeah, my name's Zach. So I live in a town called Jacksonville in Northeast Florida. I've been playing 40K. I think I got into 40K probably in like third edition.
Okay.
Is what I think it was.
Right.
Now I haven't played straight through. Like
Right.
I don't have 20 plus years. Played as a kid, and then when I went to high school, I got too cool for Warhammer.
Yep.
And then about 4 or 5 years ago, right at the tail end of 7th edition,
Right.
I decided I was a grown ass man, and that if I liked something, I was going to do it. So I came back to Warhammer. Luckily, that was at the end of 7th edition, because I think if it had been in the middle, I probably would have been like, I don't actually like this now that I think
I
about
am
it.
100% there. It's almost the same story, to be quite honest. But yeah.
Oh, yeah? Cool. Yeah, man. Well, and so got back into it, had an old Raven Guard army from when I was a kid.
Same here.
Yeah.
Raven
no shit,
Guard,
really?
yeah.
That's awesome. No, but I mean, so anyhow, I had a bunch of old, like, no Primaris, obviously, because I played, 15 or 20 years before, and, played a couple of games with them, and it was cool, but I got really into Chaos for some reason. Actually, you know what? No, it wasn't for some reason. It's because I read the Night Lords trilogy by Aaron Dembski Bowden.
Yeah.
Dude, it grabbed me, like it got me.
Yes.
And so I basically traded all my like Imperial stuff that I had, along with some of my brother's stuff. But he doesn't play anymore, so it's fine. I traded all that and got like 3,000 or 4,000 points of Chaos Space Marines, and it's kind of been the story from there on. Been playing for about 4 years pretty consistently. I do tend towards competitive play. I really only play Chaos. I'm not going to flip my monitor over that way, but I've got about 20 or 30,000 points of Chaos hanging out in my display cases, and
Nice.
yeah. And I mean, it's just kind of my comfort zone.
Yeah.
Honestly, and so as a natural extension of that, and my enjoyment of all things podcasting, I started a little show called Vox Daemonicus, which thank you for the plug. I appreciate it.
No worries, mate.
And the purpose of that, really, similar to the Red Path, is to kind of serve as a community or a like a mouthpiece, I guess, for Chaos. There's plenty of different 40K podcasts out there, but very few of them actually focus in on Chaos like our platforms do. And I'm not going to lie to you, man, it was going to be a World Eaters podcast. And then I bumped into your great show, and I was like, I can't really step on this guy's so yeah, man. So I mean, that's kind of me.
Yeah. That's really interesting. When you said Raven Guard, man, I'm like, God, I didn't have Raven Guard from when I was a kid, but I did play in the olden days, right? And then when I got back in, final couple months of seventh edition, picked up like one of the real cheap starter sets and painted the Marine side up as a Raven Guard and painted up the Orcs. And I love the Raven Guard anyway. But there was probably about 6 months to a year, about 6 months into 8th edition, I was like, nah. I love the combat phase. That was where I had my most fun, and I'd always gear my army towards fighting rather than being sort of stealthy and sneaky and whatnot. So I ended up, and I'd always liked the World Eaters. The models I'd had when I was as a kid were like Chaos Marines and Terminators and stuff. So I was like, yeah, it's time. We're following Khorne again, and yeah. And I've been pure World Eaters ever since. So yeah. And I really enjoy Vox Daemonicus, and absolutely recommend everyone check it out. Now, how often do you release your podcast, your shows? Ooh. I know it's a little bit here and there, but like your aim, right?
Yeah, so I'm kind of aiming for like once a week, usually around Fridays, which, that might flex. Like my whole thing is that this is just kind of a hobby, on top of my hobby. And so I'm not going to get too judicious with it, I guess. I don't know if that's the right word, probably not. But so I aim for Fridays. I think I've got like 12 or 13 episodes out of, varying flavors and sizes and stuff. And I've only been doing it for about 2 months. So clearly I'm hitting a little bit above what I'm aiming for. Yeah. Don't know that that's sustainable, though.
I can tell you right now, it won't be.
Yeah.
You'll hit a wall. It's like something will... But, I mean, you power through it, but, like, I can tell you right now, and anyone else who's thinking of, they want to start a channel or something, you have a huge amount of great ideas, and then you've done the great ideas, and you're like, what do I do now?
Episode 2. Yeah.
Right. So, but I mean, I think you're on the right track, setting that kind of weekly goal, because especially with competitive play, right, and being more overall chaos rather than sort of like restricting yourself to World Eaters, I think you're always going to have content. There's always going to be, something to be reviewing the LSO, talking about a hot list. You've always got something.
Yeah, exactly. And that's, like you said, taking the whole, super faction has made that a lot easier.
Yeah.
I mean, if we were only talking about competitive World Eaters, like it's like me, Mark Whitaker, Mark Perry a little bit,
Yeah. Well, hey, so Mark ended the LSO 4-2.
Yeah, I saw.
I think he got 3 games against Knights. His last 3 games. Yeah, like I don't have it up on my phone at the moment. And the other World Eaters player, David Savage, he hasn't finished his last game last time I checked, but he was 3-2. So another decent showing for the boys.
See, yeah, it's terrible. I mean, it's great.
Yeah, I know, right?
So, I mean, like...
It's a little upsetting for you, isn't it?
Yeah.
Personally.
So, I'm number 2 right now, for the best in faction. You were, awesome of you, by the way, to put that on. That's really cool.
If I get people playing, man, that's the goal.
Yeah, man. Well, I mean, it's made me take them to a couple of tournaments.
Hell yeah.
So I've got 3 RTTs, but now I'm competing with a guy that's got 2 good major performances. And so now it's like, I guess I could take Bellicor out.
That breaks it, man. It's got to be pure World Eaters.
I know. Yeah, no. I get the list construction. It's pure World Eaters and nothing else.
Right. Yeah.
So.
But I think he said Mark Witt said he's hoping to come to the LVO as well. So if he gets the 3rd big one. I've got that lined up, some RTTs, a couple GTs, but I'm only having 1 major this season. This season's kind of a wash in a way because of the first half, but still, it's
been a little rough. I mean, I live in Florida and it's the Wild West down here.
Right. Yeah.
I was gonna go to the Orlando event, and I'll definitely be there. In a capacity, but I won't be able to play.
Oh, okay. The official GW one,
the Games Workshop, the road show.
Right, yeah. I'll be interested to hear your thoughts on that. There's going to be a lot of eyes on it, but like from someone who's physically there and can see how it works. It's one of them things. Like, are they going to do it right? Are they being very interested?
I think that, and we're gonna. We can go down this rabbit hole, but like, so I will come out and say that I'm what you would call a GW apologist or bootlicker. I tend to love GW, and I don't buy into kind of the meme like, oh, they're terrible, like stuff. It's like they're not. Like most of these guys are fans and they work hard on this stuff. And I'm fortunate enough to know a good amount of the people that are working on the events team.
Okay.
And I think it's going to go well.
I understand that. I mean, I obviously I love GW. I mean, made a YouTube channel about their product, and I'll happily shill for them, especially Forge World. I love me some Forge World, but yeah, like for me, it's not so much it being bad GW, good GW. It's them getting a little bit more into the tournament scene. And how that impacts how the ITC, like Reese and that, it's like they keep stepping back a bit more, which I know that's kind of Reese's philosophy anyway. I don't know. If GW does it and they do it well, great. If we can get a better tournament scene out of it and a better player engagement, you know what, great. But I don't know. We'll see. I'll hit you up and find out your thoughts on from the event. But all right, let's dive in, because obviously we're here to talk about board control, the importance of which, how World Eaters can do it and use it, and what to look for. So I'm going to kind of pick your brains a bit, maybe share my own thoughts a little bit here and there. But you've got a lot more competitive experience than I do. So first of all, tell us, in your opinion, when someone says board control, what do they mean? What are we talking about in relation, just as a broad concept, first of all, and we'll drill down a little bit after, but as a broad concept, what is board control?
Yeah, I mean, so really, and, I'm going to answer it with the easy answer first. Board control is what it sounds like. It's controlling the board. And so
thanks everyone for coming. It's been great. Have a good one. Yeah, right.
In the can, published. Yeah, no, I mean, so basically, to me, it's how you specifically position your army and your miniatures on the field in a manner that affects how your opponent can play their game. And then also how you're positioning to kind of affect how they're affecting the board. If that makes sense.
I get you.
Yeah, and I mean, so that's kind of, a very high level overview of my opinion on what board control is. But I mean, I hate to say it's controlling the board, but it's where it is.
It is.
It's really the placement, like understanding where your units can affect the board.
It's, for me, the board control is the kind of strategic level, almost going into logistical level of the game, where you're, for me, and I'm not great at it, but I understand like my idea of the concept. You're orchestrating several tactical decisions to facilitate a strategic goal of whether it's denying the enemy taking objectives or being able to complete their engage on all fronts, or whatever their objective is. I'm going to use my tools to, number one, enhance my goals, but then also deny your goals, exactly like you said. It's thinking about yourself, but also thinking about how to stop your opponent from getting what they want from you. So it's a very cerebral and important part, and you can tell. You watch a top player, before the stream we was talking, I mentioned watching the Sean Naden game versus the Admech yesterday, and it looked like Sean was getting crushed. Like he was on the back foot, and even Adam and I think it was the Mad Dog, whoever was commentating was saying, I don't know, the Doc did the first game, and then Peter,
Seth.
Yeah,
Seth
that's it.
I
want to say they were commentating that game, but they were saying, it looks like it's over for Sean, and then suddenly, it's Sean Naden. I mean, he could have one, Guardian on the squad, and somehow he pulls the win out, but and suddenly his plan came out, and even though his board control looked bad, he knew how his army did it, and it was like boom, boom, boom. There we go. Like you've been
Yeah,
short.
and you know, guys like Sean Naden, Nick Nanavati, John Lennon, you know, all these guys, like they really deeply understand that. And I think this is kind of getting into the next topic we were going to discuss, or subtopic, is, you know, how does this work in ninth edition?
Just dive right into it, man.
Yeah, because I mean, honestly, ninth edition is a board control edition. You know, like we both said, kind of came into the game in seventh edition. I don't really know what it was like in competitive seventh, because I played like 2 games at 1,000 points and you know, couldn't remember ballistic skills and shit. But like, you know, eighth edition, especially with the ITC format, with, you know, kill one, kill more, secondaries, stuff like that, you could rely on killing units to be your primary mechanism for scoring. In ninth edition, it's not so much like that. Sure, there's secondaries, you know, like grind them down, assassinate, bring it down. No prisoners, is that what Endurance is called now?
Yeah, one of the two. I say the one where I got to kill 100 models, you know.
Yeah.
Or 100 wounds, I guess. But
which is the best. I love it. But you know, there's secondaries like that, but you have to remember that primaries are primary objectives for a reason, because they're primary.
In the name.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and that's not to say that killing doesn't have its utility. It certainly does, and I think personally the World Eaters excel at that. Which we'll get into, you know, a little bit more of the nuts and bolts of that. But really, board control is the name of the game in ninth edition, and I think, you know, it deserves to be said, as World Eaters players. And we talked about this a second ago. We really like that, getting up in their face, hitting them with my axe and my sword and shit. Oh yeah, that's great. But just doing a, you know, Rhino Rush, or even worse, just running a bunch of Berserkers across the board, without any thought to how you're positioning and how you're affecting the state of the board, especially in the combat phase, which is something, again, you know, we're fantastic at. Without doing that, you're not going to have success in a competitive environment. Of course, you know, in narrative play, hell yeah, go for it, brother. You know, have fun. But if you're looking to, you know, run World Eater specifically, and then other melee oriented and finesse armies, then you have to have a deep understanding of how your army, you know, affects the state of the board and how it can in some ways control it.
Absolutely. I mean, and if we just look at the pattern of codexes as they've come out, right? Yes, it's. I don't like to say broken armies, because Drukhari and Admech, fine, whatever. They eventually get fixed and brought into like tolerable levels. But every time a codex drops, you get a couple of things which are obviously incorrect, like 30 million attacks on the Drukhari character or whatnot.
I don't know that was incorrect. First of all, I think they intended to do that, and then they were like, "Oh
God!" Well, there we go.
That's just my thought. It's not like I don't have any, you know, actual insight.
It's possible, but I mean, there were certain things in Drukhari which were obviously needed change. You know, Sisters of Battle reducing damage to 0. I mean, anyone who played that, come on now, we know it wasn't that. But every time a book's released, yes, they get killy stuff, they get, you know, extra AP and extra damage, but we really see the army shine that maximize either movement or resilience, or a combination of both, or like the resilience through weight of bodies. Deathwing, they're still very strong. They've got counters, absolutely, but they sit there and they take it. You know, Death Guard are still strong. They got a few builds. Necrons have kind of fallen off, and I think there's some core problems with the Necron Codex, quite frankly. But Marines, White Scars are arguably the best Codex like chapter right now. Fast as all hell. They come up, they take it over, and then they kill you when they get there. They all have, and you know, Drukhari again come very fast, and there's so many of them. They all have that thing. They take the board from you, or they don't let you take their board. Absolutely not. That is how you need to play to win competitively in ninth. And it kind of leads in, because like you kind of was mentioning there, with World Eaters being the last time I'd seen the numbers, the best performing CSM sub-faction, right? Competitively and through the ITC battle or through the Battles app, which covers a lot of stuff. We seem to have something of an advantage with board control as World Eaters compared to Night Lords, even Emperor's Children, who are pretty hot shit right now.
Do we outperform Emperor's Children?
Now, this is, I think, about 2, maybe 3 months ago, these numbers dropped. Goonhammer posted an article.
The Dreadclaw might have changed that. Because that, oof.
Yeah, I know. I know. Mark Perry just did some work, and Mike Pestilence has been. He's been taking the Emperor's. I think he's won maybe 2 RTTs, and like the larger size RTTs with Emperor's Children, and I think probably EC are probably squeaking ahead of us now, just because there's probably some very high level players who are adopting them because they're good. But we're still doing okay. Like, you know, what do you think the core principles of World Eaters are? You know, our traits, our abilities, our unit options and stuff. What lends itself best to 9th edition for us, in your opinion?
So in my opinion, it's spamming MSU Khorne Berserkers. And so MSU is minimum sized unit, so a 4-man. And no, Jesus, a 5-man, excuse me. A 4-man and then a champion with some fun weaponry on him.
Yep.
The reason that I personally think that is, one, you can fit 2 of those squads into a Rhino.
Yep.
You know, a Rhino is nothing special. It's 10 wounds of toughness 7, but it's 10 wounds of toughness 7, and it sucks up damage that would otherwise be going into your Khorne Berserkers. It also gets them around the board.
Yep.
And it's getting around the board basically small units that you have to commit a decent amount of firepower into shift, because they do still have a 3-up save. It's not what it used to be, but it's something. And they're also OBSEC units. And so when we combine those 2 things, we have a really powerful, just small combination right there in flipping objectives in our turn, and then also flipping objectives in the opponent's turn. So an example of that strategy, I used it today actually against an AdMech player. I disembarked a squad of Khorne Berserkers from a Rhino that I had obscured, which is a pro tip for everyone that's not doing it: use your terrain. And so they hopped out, they ran over onto an objective, because they get that 3-inch move and then their 6-inch move on top of that. That got them into an easy charge range. After I moved them over, I ran that Rhino right over onto the objective with 5 more Khorne Berserkers still inside of it.
Right. And
then, of course, my Khorne Berserkers charged in. They cleared out, I think it was some Cerberus Raiders or something like that. The little,
the
apocalyptic
dogs.
ponies.
Yeah.
Yeah, or dogs, whatever they are.
Yeah.
Pony dogs, yeah. So it killed them. And then it flipped over to my opponent's turn. I denied him points by doing that, but I had exposed the squad of Khorne Berserkers, and they got popped right off that objective.
Oh, yeah, straight away, yeah.
They're not going to stand up against like 15 last cannon shots.
No.
It's not going to go well. I also lost my Chaos Rhino that was sitting there, but out popped another squad of Khorne Berserkers who were OBSEC, and so I scored that primary objective in the next turn when we rolled over to mine. And so, I mean, that's kind of a microcosm example of some of the different ways that we can really utilize our core strength, which, again, in my opinion, is just Khorne Berserkers, man. I mean, they're 16, 17 points a model when you give them a chain axe.
Yep.
They're cheap. Yeah. They're just not quite as durable as they need to be.
No,
Once we get that second 2-wound Khorne Berserkers, man, it's going to shake shit up, I think.
Yeah, it's huge. That alone would be huge. I mean, I've got my skepticism about us potentially losing blood for the Blood God as a fight twice.
Don't say it, Jamie. Don't speak it into existence.
Now listen, hear me out. I know, because every time I talk about it, everyone's like, no, and I agree. However, you got to think, right? How many times when you play anyone who can fight back in any way, right? How often do you get to use the actual second activation? Because you either charge one unit and probably kill what you're hitting, unless it's like a demon prince of a Death Guard demon prince or something that just takes it and then just kills you back. So they're not going to bother trading, or then you have to go into oversaturation and charge 3+ units. You can't charge 2 units of berserkers. You can't do it if they have 2 CP, because even like a squad of 10 guardsmen can probably fight and kill 1 or 2 berserkers. You know, if I don't know what kind of stratagems and stuff they can do. Obviously, like Catachans do a little bit better, but you know. They do at 1 wound and a 3-up save. They do get knocked down far too easy. But yes, the 2 wounds. Now the way I see it is, I would actually prefer if they just got an extra 2 attacks a model, and like a fight on death ability, something like that. Because I don't care about fighting last. If I can fight you on death, sure, make me ineligible to fight. I'm still going to get 21, 26 attacks.
Please spend CP
interrupting me. Exactly. Something like that I would like to see. And I think the problem with the multiple fights is, for so many units, it can get janky with all that movement. And it's great when we know how to use it, but I digress. I
think that's a good point, Jamie, that you bring up, and maybe I'm just, drawing correlations where they're not. But yeah, fighting is complicated. Yeah. It is. I think it's unquestionably the most subtle part of the game.
Oh, 100%.
And it's and it's because of your pile in and your consolidation movement. And world eaters excel at that too, with with Blood for the Blood God. Yeah. So what you make let's say you roll boxcars on your charge and you get 12 inches. Yeah. Even if you're like only 3 inches away,
you still got
from
12
your target,
inches.
Use it. Move those sons of bitches around. Yep. Because my opinion on how we should always play, and this is the berserker in me, is that we're always moving towards the other end of the table at some point, and that usually does manifest as actually being the correct way to do something.
Yeah, absolutely.
So anyhow, 12 inches of movement right there. Bam. Free movement. We activate, we pile in 3 inches. Provided you're not base to base with an enemy model, which, you're fully in control of where you place that model, you can just start shimmying around that squad.
Yeah.
And so, you do that, you fight, you consolidate another 3 inches. You activate them again for their second fight, pile in and consolidate again for another 6 inches. So, you've got, 24 inches of possible movement?
Yep.
27 if you pop...
Kill, main, burn, I think.
Thank you. Yeah, I can never remember our stratagems, like what they're called. Yeah. I know what they do. I just don't know what they're called.
Oh, I'm right there, yeah.
Yeah. And that's honestly, like, when we're talking about board control, especially on something like Red Butchers, our super terminators, that thing is bar none, man.
Yeah. I last RTT I went to a month ago, the 6-inch Kill, main, burn won me a game by 1 or 2 points. It literally won me the game by being able to kill off some Lich Guard or whatever they are, the Necron like Terminator equivalents. Then 6-inch consolidate, second activation, 3-inch pile in, 6-inch consolidate, jump onto the fourth quarter of the table, scored 3 points for engage for that turn, and that pumped me up 1 or 2 points above for the win. And that was it. So literally that 1 CP won me a game. And it will do that. It will score you points. Engage. It will put you in position for so you can get your Octarius
behind enemy lines.
Yeah, behind enemy lines or what any of the battlefield supremacies, anything where you can capture a primary like you were talking about. Anything which gets you movement and gets you into a position, regardless of what you might kill or might not kill the next turn. If my squad, 90-point squad of berserkers, scores me the third point for engage and also contests an objective, therefore denying 5 or 10 or whatever to my opponent, they can die because they may have just literally won me the game. And
that's that's a good point that you bring up, is the concept of trading units. World Eaters trade real well.
Yeah, they can do. Bad,
I never leave home without 25 Khorne Berserkers. And
wow,
5/5.
Okay.
I like 5/5 means. I know that a lot of the other kind of guys that are competing for that best in faction right now go a little bit lower than
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
But 5 feels like it's under the overkill, like kind of
Okay.
ceiling. Like 8 Khorne berserkers will kill anything,
Yeah.
with the exception of Mortarion.
Yeah. Yeah.
Pretty much, like
Yeah.
everything else in the game goes
Yeah.
with the proper buffs. 5 gets stuck into stuff,
Yeah.
which is good. You want to stick onto
Yeah.
things with OBSEC on objectives. But anyhow, I might bring home like 2 or 3 living Khorne berserkers every turn. I mean, every game.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
they don't survive, man.
Yeah.
And hey, it's great because Khorne doesn't care where the blood flows from,
Exactly.
right? You know, like
That's it.
that, and then Raptors. Raptors are another fantastic unit for trading.
Yeah.
I literally never have a living Raptor at the end of the game because they're somehow even squishier, it feels like, than berserkers. They have the same profile, but God,
Yeah.
they die.
Yeah.
But
you run, was it 3x8 Raptors?
I do like 3x8.
Right.
They're a very cheap unit,
Yeah.
which is great. Like I think 5 is 75 points.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
bone cheap, you know. I don't kit them out. I run them with
Yeah.
swords and pistols, and that's
Absolutely.
good enough because they're there to get stuck into stuff and hold it for a turn, or to like raise the banners
Yep.
or some shit like that. That's it. Having had said that, I've been investing in a little bit more expensive stuff in other places in my list, and so I've been cutting down from like 24 of them to like 10 or 11.
Yeah.
But 24 does a lot of work.
Yeah.
Like,
I think
yeah.
I was really interested when I listened to your episode about your RTT a couple of weeks ago now, and then chatting online about it and stuff. And at the moment, I'm only running one squad of 5 Raptors. I want more, but I'm working through some concepts of my list. So I've got them, and I 100% agree. You run them bare bones. There's way better melter platforms for our list. Every now and again, some people might be in a local meta that is running a lot of Imperial Guard tank lists. Well, then yes, okay. A first turn 3 melters, absolutely go for it. But in general, sword and pistol, I like them at 5 because if I don't want to turn 1 charge something, then I go and get my scramble on or my banner up, or I've got all 4 corners straight away. Their fast units aren't OBSEC, so I make sure they're not going to score this primary unless they get lucky, whatever it may be. Raptors, 100% agreed, are probably one of, for World Eaters specifically, because of Apoplectic Frenzy. That stratagem alone, talking of board control, right? That alone it's not as good as a lot of other armies get for their redeploys and pre-game moves and whatnot. It's on the lower end of those. But man, do we have some shit that can use it, right?
Dude, it's good. Like, I mean, and I really only pop it on my Raptors,
Yep.
at least in the iterations of list that I'm running now. But I mean, I don't even know that I agree that it's one of the like on kind of the low end of the redeploy stratagems. The real strength of that, aside from the fact that Raptors is going to utilize all 9 inches of the movement, is one, you can pop it on multiple units because it happens pre-game. And then 2, it happens after you determine who goes first.
That is
so you pop
true.
it, and then you roll, and if you're going second, you can pull those guys right back or get them somewhere where they're threatening for your next turn, or you can go first and just get them in and get 21 inches of free movement for a charge. So I think it's got a lot of utility.
Absolutely.
I think it's also fine to burn it like 2 or 3 times, because if
Just
you're
2 or
starting
3?
out with like, do what?
Just 2 or 3?
Just 2 or 3 times. Burn it 8. Who knows? I've seen somebody do that before. They ran Khorne berserkers out into the middle of the field against the gunline army and got tabled in turn 1. It's like, what were you doing, dude?
I am about 2 months after Faith and Fury dropped for us, and we kind of got over so this is what we can do. I played a friendly game, not competitive, but we was trying to win the game. It wasn't narrative, right? And I can't remember what my list was. I maybe had a squad of Raptors. I think I may have actually ran Warp Talons at the time because we could do the Vigilus, 6-inch charge, right? Back when we could.
Yeah.
But,
RIP. Rest in peace. Specialist attachments.
I had the Talons obviously in Deep Strike, probably a jump Warlord or whatever. But I had my Red Butchers, some Marines, Cultists, whatever. I deployed, and I think I spent 5, maybe 6 CP on Apoplectic Frenzy. And I shifted half of my line. I didn't go first. So I brought half of my line and made like a Death Star on one flank. And my opponent then had nothing. Half his army was useless. I won the game, by a little bit. It wasn't a blowout or anything. But just that mind game. Just that mind game in a situation like that. It's like they think, it's World Eaters. He's charging. He's doing what you just mentioned. Running straight up the board. It's like, LOL, no. I'm coming over here. And that side of the army is going to die. It's going to die.
And that's such a great example too of board control, because you dictated the tempo of that game.
Yep.
You dumped all your CP into it, but hey, you're probably going to regenerate those.
Yeah.
Obviously over the course of a couple of turns. And outside of hitting into things like knights and melee, we really don't have a lot of use cases for spending CP in big dumps. We're not Iron Warriors. We're not Emperor's Children. We're not CP dependent.
Yeah.
And so dumping it into stuff like, extra relics and pregame moves is a perfectly viable strategy in my mind.
Yeah.
So I started my game today with 11 CP and I had no idea what to do with it. I guess I'll pop veterans,
I like
I'm not going to have this in my next codex, so I better use it.
Oh God, there we go. That's a sore spot.
Yes.
But it pisses me off. Fight again, or fight a third time, I guess, is 3 CP. I've never understood it, because they knew shooting was more powerful looking at obliterators or even havocs. Yes, if berserkers make combat does more damage, right? But how often do we get, of your 25 berserkers, how many times does 25 berserkers get into combat and get to fight first?
So I mean, with me, part of the reason that I take 5 squads of Khorne berserkers is that when round 2 comes around, I'm making 5 charges.
Okay. All right.
Across the board. So and it's usually like 2 squads of berserkers and a character goes in. I love eating Overwatch with rhinos. It's hilarious. Charged in a Vindicator today, which was a massively stupid decision on my part. But, so I'm threat overloading. And so pretty frequently for me, I'll still have shit left over. Even after an interrupt comes in. Yeah. And so, today, actually, I used Fury of Khorne.
Right.
And I did it in kind of it was kind of like a weenie way to do it. Like, it wasn't this big, I'm taking down a knight, or anything like that. I was tied up with some of those Sakaran Ruststalkers.
Right.
Something like that. There was one left in the unit that I was locked in combat with 5 berserkers. He completely whiffed against them after I wiped most of them. So I activated that again and used my 3-inch pile-in, or consolidate, I should say, to get into combat with another unit that was on an objective, and I turned off his control of that objective.
Yeah.
So,
well, yeah, that's exactly the right way to do it, though.
Yeah, and it's very situational. And again, it's 3 CP. And I probably could have used it later on in the game, because I ran out the next game, next turn.
Yeah.
And there were a couple of times where I would have really loved to have had a reroll here.
You see, again, kind of going back to what I mentioned earlier about Blood for the Blood God, I can see losing Blood for the Blood God, additional attacks, Fury of Khorne becoming 2 CP, and it being 1 CP on a unit of 8 or less berserkers, as a World Eater's trait. Because it's you've got to be Mark of Khorne, but if you're a World Eater, you're double Khorne badass. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a little bit of spice there, and it kind of gives us a cheeky way. Maybe it'd stay 2 CP. I don't know, but I'd like to see a little. us to be able to make one unit fight again with absurd amounts of attacks and damage output. Because that extra movement, it's not the fighting that I rarely use Fury of Khorne for the fighting. I'll use it to just get 3 or 6 to 9 inches of movement if I've already popped that, because that is huge for exactly the topic of this video, right?
Yeah, and I used it quite a lot more in 8th edition.
Yeah.
Back when, if you were touching something, you could activate it.
Yeah.
And of course that's, changed now to where you have to, declare something as the target of a charge.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's been times that I chewed through 60 guardsmen in one turn with one squad of Khorne berserkers. And I mean, that's the shit that you play World Eaters for.
That is, it's like that's how memories are made, right?
Yeah. I do like what you're saying though about kind of, I guess, speculation about the next codex. I mean, everything that they're doing seems to be with the unspoken intent of speeding up the game a little bit more and simplifying it to a certain extent, but allowing for there to be nuance and depth.
Yeah.
I mean, with 8th edition, of course, it was a hard rules reset, and that was a net gain for the game, in my opinion, because 7th edition was awful. But so we reset and wanted a much more quick game. I think that they definitely hit the nail on the head there, but they didn't lose the nuance. Of course, when we were playing Index Hammer, some of the detail was missing.
Yeah.
But as we, had some rules and the game matured, we got that back. And I think it definitely still exists in 9th edition.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So it's something we've talked about, like Dara and myself and, several people. World Eaters in 9th edition is just much more fun than even 8th edition. Even Vigilus and Faith and Fury, it was hot for a minute, and we had some, like the deep striking warp talons and stuff, and all the fun. But because it just feels like this is an edition made that they thought about combat armies. They genuinely thought about making terrain a thing, a slightly smaller board, objectives that force people to come out of their back line and meet me for a good old honest punch up in the middle of the table, and we kick some ass right there. That's our game. You meet us in the middle, we're up for it.
And I really think and I was telling a friend today at the game store after my game, I honestly do think that World Eaters are a faction that has been slept on. Yeah. And that's not to say that we're a top tier faction. No, I think we are solidly C+.
Yeah, I would agree.
I mean, and I will bitch and moan about this endlessly, and I know that I brought it up on Vox Daemonicus, but we don't have faction secondaries, and therefore we're second-class citizens, just like everyone else. Mm-hmm. Not having those is major.
Yes.
And, we also just don't have the toolkit that a lot of other factions do. On top of that, it's a 4-year-old codex that split, honestly, 5 or 6 factions into one and just kind of shoved it in. And we don't really have a detailed faction identity, kind of like how, Death Guard does, or Drakari, or, Ultramarine shit. Like, they have their own.
Yeah.
And that's something that I think that we can really look forward to.
I
know we're talking about board control as the topic.
No, this is a legit, because it's how our army functions.
Mm-hmm.
And the theme of our army, like something I've talked about before, and I'm sure this is a concept no stranger to you. Armies have their RPG stats, right? You spend so many points on resilience or speed or combat skills, right? So your Drakari are fast and fighty, your Death Guard are slow, but they take a beating, and all these things. For us, we've just maxed out combat. We didn't spend any points anywhere else. We actually removed points from our psychic so we could have more combat. So we need something in ability to absorb damage and or speed, because we're right there. We're right there with the speed, with our apoplectic frenzy, with our second and third fight phases, with our 6-inch consolidate, red butchers to upgrade terminators to be more mobile. but we're not quite. Like you say, C+, we are using everything we've got, but without a secondary or 2 or 3 secondaries to look at and choose. Without... I will refuse to make us active in the psychic phase if somehow we get like a prayer or something. No, I will not use... I will just... Fuck no. No. But
I like what they did with the Dark Apostle.
Yes.
I keep calling it the Bolt-on Codex, where we got like the Greater Possessed and the Disco and the new Dark Apostle.
Yeah.
I really like that mechanic, and I think it's super underutilized
Yeah.
in World Eaters. I mean, hot piece of tech. If you guys don't know what the Banner of Rage is, check it out.
Well, if you're running 5 squads of 5 Berserkers, you better be using the Banner of Rage. My God.
Dude,
that's
an
absurd amount of attacks.
So I
50
like
attacks. Yeah, that's an extra 50 attacks right there.
Yeah. I mean, if I hit it,
if you get them all, yeah.
I believe it's only supposed to last for the phase in which it's unveiled.
Yeah.
Is my understanding, which kind of sucks. I was hoping it would just like
it's just,
have all my
the
boys
one
standing
fight
here
phase.
having a powwow. I feel like, guess what, But yeah, no, I mean that, and then when it hits like Khorne, because I'll put Khorne and Apostle and like 5 or 6 Berserkers into a drill and pop them out, and just he unfurls that thing and says, "Go get them, boys."
Yeah. Oh yeah. Anything that can pump that drill up. Ooh yeah.
I know team, hashtag team drill's the thing, man, but we got to
drill gang, man. Hashtag drill gang.
Team Rhino.
Now,
no, I love my drill. I'll tell you what, man. One of my favorite things to do is, like I said, put Khorne in that drill, and pop them out, and that drill, that Melta on that thing with Khorne sitting there giving it full to hit rerolls, that will ruin someone's day.
That's the play right there.
Yeah,
that's
dude,
why I run 2 of them.
I love that thing.
2 drills with Khorne.
I've only got one. I need to get another one.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Look at me. I'm saying Team Rhino, but here I am, like on Team Drill, clearly.
The problem is, drills don't have core, right? And core is going to be a thing. If we get lucky and there's like a stratagem where you can give something core for a phase, and however Khorne ends up being with his, like chapter master kind of rules, we just don't know. Right now, drills are great. But again, and just, whether you're a Rhino player, a drill player, or you somehow make Land Raiders work or something, transports, right, I know. Hey, I've got a list, and it's you. Land Raider Achilles.
I have a list with 3. It's 3 of the Proteuses, I think, that get the 5 up. The Proteus Land Raiders, and they're just filled with Terminators.
Yeah.
It cannot work. I just want it to.
I am. The reason I'm considering it is because I only have 2 Contemptors with Volkite, but I've got 3 Land Raiders, and the Land Raider Achilles can take Volkite. So I can get 16 Volkite and my out of line of sight, Thunderfire quad launcher on a Land Raider. It's not efficient. I'm not trying to sell this, but I'm playing around, messing around. But
I want to report back.
The idea of transports as well. Obviously, transports are something which are huge for us. And this kind of leads me into the next question I want to ask you. I know we've talked about it. You've certainly mentioned your love for Raptors and Berserkers, obviously, and utilising the Rhino. But units within the World Eaters, aside from obviously Raptors and Berserkers, because they are well documented right now as being, within Chaos Space Marines, Berserkers are an A+ unit. Raptors certainly have utility with us. Warp Talons tend to see favour in like the Night Lords and stuff just because of their charge buffs. But are there any other units you think we need to think about, or that really lend to the board control?
Really, Red Butchers.
Okay.
That's my first answer, because that fits into kind of the narrative aspects of World Eaters, and I love Red Butchers. Yeah, it's 2 CP well spent. Berserkers and Terminator armor. Hell yeah. Another great thing that they bring, is their inherent deep strike capability. And I like popping them into somebody's back line with, like 8 or 10 Meltas, going into something, and then lightning claws into a different unit. It doesn't always work. Positioning isn't always great.
Yeah.
But with the change to behind enemy lines, the secondary, those guys score 2 points the second they land.
Yeah.
Provided you don't charge them into like
Mortarian.
something crazy. Yeah, and he picks them up. So I think they're really good for board control. That's a little bit more kind of getting into your opponent's head, though.
Yeah.
Because you drop back that big, nasty unit back there, and they're thinking, I got to deal with this.
Yeah.
You
and
might
they can
get
normally
lucky
just run away, quite frankly. Like,
yeah, I mean,
that's how
make it,
head.
Yeah, make it so that they can't run away.
Yeah.
Get them down to where you have a nice charge into a backfield objective, and you're gonna swing the game 10 points in the next game if they get on that objective.
One thing I'm not using Red Butchers at the moment because it's just I don't play them well enough as they need to be played. But one thing I do like, because I'm a strong advocate of Lightning Claw and Combi Melter across the board. Maybe throw a Chain Fist on the champion if you've got an extra 5 points or whatever. That's fine. I'm not going to worry about that. But what I like is if you can deep strike them, depending on your opponent, like what is their natural board control, their backfield screening going to be like. If you can, whilst Red Butchers, if you're spending the 2 CP, you really want to be able to get those fight phases, right? However, you deep strike in, you melt or you combi bolt or something, whatever you're doing, you foul the charge. It's going to happen. But you can still advance with them and fire the melter. And if you've got 10 Terminators with 10 melters, you're still going to hit 5 times, even if someone's -1 to hit because it doesn't stack. So you can get that 5 inches because 5 sucks. But if you get 6 or 7, you're probably, depending on where they were positioned, because it's 3 inches away from the edge of the objective, if you get 6 or 7 inches movement from your deep strike position on the next turn, you're on that objective. And they don't want... One thing you don't want on your objective is a set of World Eater Berserkers in Terminator armor, because you've got to kill them. And how the hell...
a serious problem.
And especially if there's like some light cover or heavy cover for them to sit in, or some trees... If you can stack up an extra armor save or a -1 to hit on them boys, there's your problem. And they can still shoot the melter because of the assault profile, and they could still do some damage. And I don't know, it's a little thing I like about them. Gives them a bit of versatility you may not consider because you get in that zone of I've got to get a charge off with them, right?
Yeah, no, I like that. Drop them in and then, like behind obscuring or something, and then advance them. Yeah, that's not a bad idea. I like it. So, another thing,
but
another thing that we haven't talked about and isn't frequently thought about with World Eaters is shooting. I think we're low key one of the better shooting factions in Chaos Space Marines.
Absolutely.
And the reason I think that is because of Khorne the Betrayer.
Yep.
And I know it is completely against everything that we think of, when we talk about World Eaters, that Khorne's back here babysitting a squad of Havocs or Oblits, but dude, he's money. He's expensive right now for 115 points to be babysitting something. But what I've been doing is the triple Volkite Contemptor.
Yep.
With Khorne just sitting there right in the middle of them.
Yep. It's
a 1-inch aura. It's very small, but dude, that will clear stuff off a board. So
yeah,
it's not so much board control as it is just board denial.
Yeah.
But that goes hand in hand with controlling the board.
When I went to my first competitive tournament back in 8th edition, just an RTT, my list was World Eaters, Khorne, 3 Predators with Killshot, because it was ridiculous because of Khorne's rerolls. And I remember way before I started the channel and was just a member of the Facebook, the World Eaters Legion Facebook group or whatever. Remember mentioning, hey everybody, let's use Khorne as a backfield commander. No, you're an idiot. What the hell are you talking about? Khorne needs to be in for fight. I was like, I'm not talking about your friendly narrative game where, Khorne and Lucius meet and fight in the middle. I'm talking about when winning the game is the primary objective, right? And 100% agree, because You got Abaddon with 6-inch reroll all fail or all hits regardless of failure, and then Khorne is the only other option for every turn he's alive, because there's some strats people get. But yeah, and the ability to re-roll your failed hits on multiple units. Volkite Contemptors. Right now, Volkite Contemptors are the shit. As far as chaos shooting goes, unless you're Iron Warriors and, can do your whatever your particular demon engine of choice.
Triple Lord of Skulls.
Yeah,
with,
Lord of
the Crimson
Skulls.
Crown and your Demon Smith.
Yeah, you got like 3 or 4 things you're stacking up there and making it rain. But yeah, I don't even. Well, it is low key in that everyone laughs at you when you say it to anyone who doesn't play World Eaters.
It's not low key when they're on the receiving end of
right?
it, though. Yeah.
It's like, wait a minute.
3 units a turn.
Okay.
Okay.
So you're telling me that you're 48 shots of Volkite, you get to re-roll all of them and the 6 cracked missiles, or if you've got that on there. Yeah, buddy. And come and charge them. Try and lock them down, because guess who's there waiting for you to come and say hello right next turn,
I will admit, in that RTT that you referenced that I played out, I did heroically intervene Khorne into a squad of Death Company, and he took 2 Thunderhammers directly to the face, and I failed both invuln saves.
Yeah, that's rough. That's rough. Oh.
Yeah, I still won that. I tabled that guy in round 3, so it worked out, but it was a rough round 1.
You know what's funny? I believe it was the Blood Angel. Did you play an Ultramarines player as well? How many Marines did you play against?
That tournament, I started out playing a guy named Warren that was playing Sisters.
Right.
Then I played Chris Frost, who had his Space Wolves. And then I played, I forget the gentleman's name. He was playing Blood Angels.
He's got a YouTube channel, and he
yeah.
Have you seen it? Okay, because I happened to watch his video, and he's like, oh, and I played World Eaters. I was like, what now? And then I think he said you by name. I was like, well, there you go. Cause that was kind of weird. It was like the same week, obviously, that you'd put your Vox Daemonicus up, and it was just kind of cool. But yeah, because he gave a real nice blow by blow, and he's like, yep. And then combat happened, and World Eaters fuck,
Yeah, dude. I mean, and that's the thing. Like, I told him after the game, because I mean, it felt like a very, very tight game right up until my. Right up until my, what was it? Turn 2. I mean, it was a fast game, but for those those combat phases that we had, it was very back and forth. Yeah. And the thing with 2 armies like Blood Angels and World Eaters that excel at fighting is you meet in the top of either top of 2 or bottom of 1.
Yeah.
In the middle of the board, you have a big mosh pit. And then one of the armies breaks, and it's a runaway.
And then it's just a stampede. Yep.
Yeah, and so I mean, like the only way you can really mitigate that is to kind of hold back and like trade units forward, but you're just trading them into a meat grinder, and you're going to lose the game at that point. It kind of sucks. It's like somebody is walking away with 95 plus points, and someone's leaving with like 24.
Yeah. You see. That's like when you've got your Codex armies like Blood Angels, Space Wolves, I'm not going to mention the Deathwing in this, but any of the Marines especially that are combat in the lore, they're combat, especially the non-Codex ones, Blood Angels and Space Wolves, right? They love a fight. Almost everything about their book is making the fight better for them. In general, they get some psychic stuff and whatnot, great. So, if you're building, in general, your average Blood Angels or Space Wolf player, you're building an army that doubles down on your combat. But going back to what you just said 5 minutes ago, which I heartily 100% agree with, because we don't have that codex where we can really double down, we make do with the table scraps we've got. We bring shooting. Our chain axes have got a Volkite behind them. So we're going to meet you in the middle, but we're also going to hose you down with whatever hot shooting we can bring, whether it's 5 melters from a termite drill or 16 Volkites. We bring that, and it's weird because our book is comparatively so bad. We have adapted to be good at something we shouldn't be, and now that gives us an edge against a combat army in an edition made for combat or better for combat armies. I just love the irony of it, quite frankly.
Yeah, and I mean, yeah, I do think it's very funny. Like, I considered taking a list to my game today that was triple decimators with the soul burners.
Yeah.
And then triple Volkite contemptors, and just trying to get as much of that shit into that 1-inch bubble of Khorne and just walking around the field with it. My buddy was like, "You're not going to have any board presence."
Yeah.
Do what?
I think you can get 4 of the contemptor bases.
I think so. I mean, I could measure it out. But, no, my buddy was like, "What are you going to do about board presence?" And I was like, "I don't need board presence if I table them on round 2, dude. Right. I'll win." So,
but yeah.
I mean, activity in every phase, man. You know, we don't get psychic phase, but we've got brass collar and then scorn of sorcery, so we can kind of affect. But do what you can. At least we're not Tau.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, they're hurting, but I don't feel bad for them. They can go fuck themselves. Quite frankly.
I would like to play against more Tau, and I will say fully objectively that I enjoy Tau's play style. Yes. Yeah. I think that memes the way that I think they have an interesting style of play.
They bring something to the table. They mess with the meta when they drop in, right? Because if the Tau book was released in a week's time, that is going to mess up AdMech. AdMech just Tau they will have something in there that will just absolutely neutralize AdMech. They say, "You thought you was a shooting army? Goodbye." It's like,
I'd like to introduce you to my friend the Riptide.
Yeah. Everything ignores deep strike. They get like a Manta Strike special rule where they, they'll do something. But yeah, I mean, sadly, it's probably going to be a while for them. But they're still a frustrating army for us, though. Even now, it's the Overwatch. That's what helped propel us against everyone else, but not against Tau. We have to be dirty to beat them.
That's where your warp talons come in. Hopefully.
Yeah. But
hopefully, can't reroll the charge with them. Well, you can for a CP, but can't get Icon of Wrath.
Well, you can't on Warp Talons.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Okay, you can't take it. Yeah, you got to pay the CP and maybe have a Violent Urgency Warlord nearby,
and just hope Oh god. So look, right? How do you think we? For someone maybe newer or looking to get into competitive play with World Eaters, which anyone who's doing that, you got to be an absolute mad lad, and you're picking the right army to do it, because got to be something wrong. But what do you think we should do with World Eaters? But maybe if you need to dive into like Chaos at Large or something, what do you look for in an army if you're going to build an army that does well at board control? What are we looking at?
So the first thing I look at, and it's a pretty basic answer, is just their troop choices. Right. And how do I make those efficient or good? Mm-hmm. Unfortunately for Chaos Space Marines, outside of our cult troops, which, Berserkers, Noise Marines, Plague Marines, and Rubric Marines, like we have a very weird codex because of the state that Chaos Space Marines and cultists find themselves in. Like, cultists right now, I think, are objectively better than Chaos Space Marines. They're cheaper. You can get more of them into a unit for less. They suck up more wounds. They die faster, but whatever. They're cultists. That's what they're there for. Anyhow, I look at troops and what you can do with them. Rubrics are good at staying in there and sucking up damage 1 weapons. Plague Marines are fantastic. Unless you're taking them outside of Death Guard, in which case they're significantly less fantastic. Berserkers flip objectives wonderfully, and Emperor's Children have some of the best troops in the game.
Yeah.
Noise Marines just affect so much around them. So really, what can my troops do, and how can I enable them? And then from there, I want to look at mobility. This is where things like Raptors come in. I don't want to talk too much about Emperor's Children, but some of the tricks that they can pull with mobility are fantastic.
Yeah.
So they have Tactical Perfection, which is their redeploy. Yeah. That's fantastic. Honor the Prince might be the best stratagem in the game.
The auto 6 dice for charging, right?
You declare your charge, you roll 2 dice, and then if you'd like to, you can make one of them a 6.
And you don't even have to do it until you've rolled the dice, right?
Yeah.
That's
I haven't. I'm pretty sure that it's after you've rolled the dice.
I'm fairly sure it is. Yeah, fairly sure.
So you almost guarantee yourself a 9-inch charge out of Deep Strike, and so things like that. Really, you're looking for speediness, a little bit of durability, but that's not necessarily the most important thing, especially when you can spam units.
Yeah.
Again, I go back to talking about five mans. Each one of those you have to commit an amount of resources to. Yeah. You can't just blow them away. It's not something you can look at and it goes away. You have to concentrate on it. And so maximizing your board presence through movement and then just chaff, kind of. And anything with a little bit of jank, man. I love jank. We don't have too much of it in World Eaters.
Yeah.
Talking about chaos, like Cult of Duplicity with Thousand Suns is a fantastic, example of jank. Thousand Suns are fucking garbage right now, unfortunately, to the point that I don't know if I'm going to play them even when they do come out because it's been such a painful 2 years. But just anything like that lets you affect board control throughout the course of the game and not just in your movement phase.
Yeah. I think actually that last sentence right there, the affecting the board control, not just in the movement phase, because obviously movement is primary. Fast units, whether you like bikes, raptors, warp talons, even things like possessed and chaos spawn with their 7-inch move are, that extra inch plus an advance goes a long way. But being able to do it outside, it's why one of the few tricks that keeps things like Tyranids okay. I mean, they're not great right now, don't get me wrong, but being able to move in the shooting phase with the Swarmlord, I believe, does that, right? That's huge, and that's what make like the Dimmercarian, the Forge World thing, really
the Dimas or whatever they're called. Dude, those things are. Ugh.
Yeah. Then obviously Psychic is why Warp Time was. I mean, it's still good if you can use it. We're completely locked out now, but it was such a powerful power. Anywhere which lets you move, expand your board presence, your footprint outside of movement. The more things you've got, if you can, advance and charge, use Warp Time. Get double fight activations or 6-inch consolidates. If you can do multiple things in multiple stages of the game, you should be in a very good position in 9th edition right now.
Yeah, and I know we're going a little bit long, but I mean one example of that is Slaanesh. Yeah. Like Slaanesh is objectively a better close combat army in pretty much every way than Khorne is.
Yeah.
I mean, and I mean that both demons and especially demons, but demons and Chaos Space Marines. Emperor's Children, the Wisp Marines fucking clap in close combat, man. Pop vets on them, and a 10-man squad of them gets something like 31 attacks, I think, like 32 if you give their champ a Lightning Claw, which you should do. But I mean, they're fantastic. Then there's things like like Keepers of Secrets that can fight. Oh, in my Psychic phase, I can fight now with Hysterical Frenzy, I think is what it's called. Oh, and I'm also going to fight first in your fight phase. So, like, the possibility of picking up 2 enemy units, in your phase and then another one in their phase, like, that, oof.
Yeah. Fights first is huge.
It's really hard to not control the board when you're the only army on it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely, yeah. Anything that gives you that edge to destabilize, to play your game on your opponent's turn, especially. That's lovely. It's
that's really peak 9th edition.
Yeah.
If you're, like you said, playing your game in their phase, then you are playing Warhammer 40,000 9th edition.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Yeah. And that, circling it back round to World Eaters a bit comes down to making the right decisions for your charges, right? So your berserkers will likely survive. Maybe they kill 50 points of chaff when you charge them. You triangle, you try point someone, wrap and trap, whatever you want to call it. Then in their phase, you've got as long as you stage manage, right, you've got 2 fight phases. And the beauty of fighting in your opponent's phase is it's just as long as you're eligible. So you can pop that 6-inch strat and consolidate into their, warlord. You're within an inch. You can fight. You just ruined their day in their own turn because we can fight twice inherently. It's a wonderful thing. It really is.
I do love fight twice, man. It's nice being able to, charge 2 units. All my attacks in round 1 are going here. All my attacks in round 2 are going there, and you have to pay 2 CP to get in front of both. Yeah. Get in front of that second one.
Yeah.
So take your pick, and then if you're, bingo on CP, then guess what? Bye.
Yeah. Yep. It's a critical way to manage resources. Is something I like to do is to if I know an opponent's army well enough and know what their strats are, is to bait them. Is to bait them into blowing those CP. Sure, throw some Overwatch away, do whatever you want. Because once I get you to 1 CP, every damn unit on the table is coming in, and the game ends on that fight phase. If you've got less than 1 or less than 2 CP.
If your opponent blows through all of the CP in the first 2 turns of the game, then you're in a very good position. Yeah. Especially, if he blows through all of them and you don't have an army left because he just double shot everything.
Yeah, that's different.
Tough shit. But if you've got 3 or 4 berserker squads still running around at that point, you're now sitting very pretty.
Yeah, I 100% agree. All right. I want to wrap it up there. First off, thank you very much, Zach, for coming on, hanging out with me on a Saturday evening and talking some World Eaters, talking some 40k.
Yeah, man, always.
So just remind us, Vox Daemonicus. I know it's, I know where to get it, but where can everyone else listen?
Sure. So Vox Daemonicus, we're a podcast. We do not do the YouTube stream because I'm too much of a dumbass to figure it out. So good for you. I host it through an app called Anchor, and I believe that aggregates it out to every major podcast app. So Spotify, iTunes, you can listen
Podbean,
on
I think.
Anchor itself. Yeah, Podbean.
Yeah.
A few smaller ones that I'm not super familiar with. So that's the main source. I try to update it at least once a week. Usually I do a little bit better than that, but Friday is what I'm kind of holding myself to. And we're on Facebook too, and it's under just Vox Daemonicus. If you want to know how to spell that, you can look it up in Faith and Fury because I stole it from, I think it's a Night Lord's relic.
Night Lord. Relic.
I read it and I was like, fuck yeah, copyright infringement sounds good, baby. I think GW will be okay with it.
I think
I said, I tend to take a pretty positive outlook on things, and it's a hobby. No reason to get pissed off about stuff, which not all my opponents would agree that I'm good at because I can get a little sassy sometimes.
It's a hot fried game, and we need a little salt with it. So, so everyone, links, like I said, will be below. We'll have I'll throw as many of them, Spotify, iTunes. I'll throw as many of them down there as I can find, and please go check Zach out and give him a listen. Got some really good content on there. All right. Well, once again, thank you, sir, for being on. And everyone, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Stay healthy, stay safe, and kill, main, burn.